Present us, O Lord, in all our doings with thy most gracious favour, and further us with thy continual help, that in all our works, begun, continued, and ended in thee, we may glorify thy holy name, and finally by thy mercy attain everlasting life. Amen. Introduction of guests. I recognize the member from Kindersley-Binger.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to introduce some guests up in the West Gallery. They traveled 5 hours down here to Regina for a dance competition, but I told them it's to come see me. I want to welcome Kyla Krushaninski, her daughters Bryn and Michaela, to their Legislative Assembly. Kyla and myself have worked for many years, along with her husband Marty, on the World Bunnock Championships in Macklin every year. But Kyla also has a claim to fame. Kyla is quite the hunter, much to the chagrin of her husband, Marty. She has shot the largest non-typical elk in Saskatchewan history.
Here, here, here.
Fifth largest in Canada, and the largest ever shot by a female hunter.
Here, here.
So Kyla, Bryn, Michaela, welcome to this, your Legislative Assembly.
I recognize the member from White City Capel.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. A few weeks back, a number of MLAs attended the Leading Influence MLA Appreciation Prayer Breakfast. And we have a few guests here today that I was so privileged to sit at their table. In the West Gallery here, we have Jane Park and Glennis Gogol, and Glennis is actually from my constituency, and I just had a great time visiting with them at that table and really enjoyed that breakfast that was put on by Fred and his team. And so I just want to encourage all of us to welcome them to their Legislative Assembly.
I recognize the member from Regina Elphinstone Centre.
Good morning, Mr. Speaker. Thank you. I'm just on my feet to introduce a guest seated in your gallery. Charlene Third joins us today from Child Care Co-op here in Regina. They have been in operation for 62 years, Mr. Speaker, and they have 138 spaces here in Regina. I know that these numbers are a testament to the quality of care that's been provided by Child Care Co-op over the years. It's a testament to the power of caring for the future of Saskatchewan, Mr. Speaker, and our children. I not only welcome Charlene, but I'm honored to be in her presence. We've been on our feet quite a bit over the past few weeks, presenting petitions, asking questions about the need to sign on to and extend the federal child care agreement, Mr. Speaker. That has been a stumbling block, though, to also addressing some of the challenges that existed even when this child care agreement was in place. So we will continue to advocate on behalf of these folks, and we sure are glad to see their faces here in the Legislature each and every day. And I would ask all members to join me in welcoming Charlene to her Legislative Assembly.
I recognize the Minister of Education.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If I could just briefly join the member opposites in welcoming Charlene from the Child Care Co-op to her Legislative Assembly here this morning. Mr. Speaker, as the member has pointed out, we have been discussing this issue quite a bit this session, and I, as the minister responsible, as well as MLAs on this side of the House and probably both sides of the chamber, Mr. Speaker, have been meeting with and hearing from child care operators and parents and families across Saskatchewan on this particular issue to gain feedback and try to navigate a way forward on this as we work to renegotiate the extension of the federal child care agreement. So, Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the government, I'd just like to take this opportunity to welcome the guests to their Legislative Assembly. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I recognize the member from Lumsden Morse.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It has indeed been a good morning for me to have had special guests already in the House, and none more important than my wife, seated in your gallery, Marley Beth, without you, I would be half the man that I am. So thank you so much for all your love and support. And beside her, a very important person in our lives as well, Mrs. Kathy Brandt. Now, Kathy has really become an adopted child in our family. And though she has her own parents, but we've taken her on as well. She's lived with us for a time. I was the MC at her wedding. We had some great fun. And she serves now as our constituency secretary and keeps us all online and in good shape and in good form. So it's a delight to have you here today, Kathy and Marley, and this year Legislative Assembly, and please join with me in welcoming them here. Hear, hear.
Presenting petitions. I recognize the member from Saskatoon, Churchill Wildwood.
Mr. Speaker, it's a pleasure to be on my feet to present this petition calling on the government to address the housing crisis in Saskatchewan. The petition reads as follows: We, the undersigned residents of the province of Saskatchewan, wish to bring to your attention the following, Mr. Speaker. The cost of housing in Saskatchewan has skyrocketed, making it increasingly difficult for many individuals and families to secure stable and affordable housing. Over the past decade, homelessness has surged, pushing people onto the street. Meanwhile, the government has made drastic cuts to housing programs. The government of Saskatchewan has wasted $596 million on vacant housing units. Some of these remain uninhabitable because of cuts to the maintenance and renovation budgets over the last decade. Monthly rent increases in Saskatchewan have significantly increased, while wages of Saskatchewan families have remained stagnant. As a result, people are forced to cut back on their groceries and use the food bank. We, in the prayer that reads as follows, respectfully request that the Legislative Assembly of Saskatchewan call on the Government of Saskatchewan to immediately implement a comprehensible, affordable housing strategy aimed at helping individuals and families in securing stable and affordable housing. This strategy must restore the cuts made to the housing portfolio and invest in the development of affordable, low-income housing units. We also urge the government to enforce rental protections for tenants and allocate resources towards the development of second-stage housing and crisis shelters. The members signing this petition reside in the city of Saskatoon. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I recognize the member from Saskatoon Eastview.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's an honour to rise and present a petition to the Legislative Assembly of Saskatchewan calling for mandatory intimate partner violence education in our province. Those who signed the petition today wish to bring to your attention that Saskatchewan has the highest rate per capita of intimate partner violence in all of the country, also known as domestic violence. On top of catastrophic financial implications for allowing this to get so out of control, there's catastrophic personal implications for those who are victims, Mr. Speaker. But there is a solution. Workplace orientation would include all genders from all walks of life and all areas of the province. Employers and employees need to know the signs of intimate partner violence and where to call for help. Education is key to changing the rates of intimate partner violence. I'll read the prayer. We, in the prayer that reads as follows, respectfully request that the Legislative Assembly of Saskatchewan call on the Government of Saskatchewan to immediately mandate education on intimate partner violence to be included in the orientation process for all new employees across all workplaces in the province. Those who signed the petition today are from Saskatoon and Martensville. I do so present.
I recognize the member from Saskatoon, Chief Mistawasis.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today to speak and present the petition regarding adequate funding for education. Hear, hear. The undersigned residents of the province wish to bring to the attention that in the 23-24 provincial budget, it was wholly inadequate, with cuts to the classrooms. The SSBA, representing all 27 school divisions, criticized the budget. Samantha Beacott, the STF president, said that either the government doesn't understand the issues or just doesn't think they're important. With binding arbitration that this led to, some of these issues have been addressed, but it is important to note that that year's failures came from a decade of funding that failed to keep pace with inflation and enrollment, and the school divisions described the system already cut to the bone, a situation that I personally got to live. The prayer reads as follows: that we respectfully request the Legislative Assembly of Saskatchewan call on the Government of Saskatchewan to provide adequate, sustainable, predictable operating funds for the 27 public and separate school divisions to ensure that schools, teachers, and other caring professionals are able to meet the needs of every student in Saskatchewan. The signatories to the petition are from Saskatoon and Leroy. I do so submit.
I recognize the member from Cumberland.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's an honor to rise today to present a petition to the Legislative Assembly calling for adequate and equitable SED rates. The underside residents of the province of Saskatchewan wish to bring to the attention the following: that the Saskatchewan Assured Income Disability Program is a program for people with significant and enduring disabilities who have barriers for employment, that current SED rates mean that individuals who rely on the program live well below the poverty line, that this failure to increase the program represents a decrease of 20% of benefits since 2012, and that the provincial government engages in clawback policies that have been found to be discriminatory, such as the policy of requiring individuals to apply for early CPP and then clawing it back dollar for dollar. I'll read the prayer. We, in the prayer that reads as follows, respectfully request that the Legislative Assembly of Saskatchewan call on the Government of Saskatchewan to increase SED rates to account for inflation, respect the constitutional rights of persons with disabilities in Saskatchewan by halting discriminatory practices and aligning policies with the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, index the SED basic amount to inflation going forward, and provide targeted relief to those in deepest poverty, such as single individuals paying market rent. The signatories of this petition reside in Saskatoon and Denholm. I do so present.
I recognize the member from Regina Coronation Park.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We, the undersigned resident of the province of Saskatchewan, wish to bring it to your attention the following: that Saskatchewan has the highest suicide rate among the provinces, that Indigenous people die by suicide at the rate 4 times higher than non-Indigenous people in Saskatchewan, that Saskatchewan continues to break its own records in overdose death, with 484 suspected or confirmed overdose deaths in 2023. That 1 in 4 youth in Saskatchewan have reported having engaged in self-harm at some point. That 1 in 4 youth reported having considered suicide in past years, with 9.7% having attempted, and that the Child and Youth Advocate in her 2022 report noted that long waiting time and insufficient mental health and addiction services are leaving many children and youth without access to care when they need it. We, in the prayer that read as follows, respectfully request the Legislative Assembly of Saskatchewan to call on the Government of Saskatchewan to work with experts, community leaders on evidence-based solution to the mental health and addiction crisis in Saskatchewan. The signatory of this petition reside in Saskatoon. I do so present.
Reading and receiving petitions. And just before we do statements by members, sorry, just a quick comment from the Speaker. I just first of all want to say how much I appreciate working for you all, serving you in this chamber, and how much I enjoy listening to your debate and your speeches and all the goings-on. Yesterday I made a mistake, though, so I just wanted to clarify for everybody's understanding so there's clarity back and forth. Just statements by members compared to a 25-minute debate. There's different rules, and so yesterday I would like to apologize to the member from PA Carleton. I made him sit down, and you know, maybe it was hard to call, but just for everybody's knowledge on both sides, when you're doing your statements by members, Rule number 18.3 says members may make statements about any subject or interest of concern, or subject of interest or concern. And so it is different than the 25-minute debate, which has different rules. But just to make clear, in order and decorum, so sometimes when we may be called, the use of offensive, provocative, or threatening language in the Assembly and committees is strictly prohibited. So I may be a little more sensitive for some words than some of you would like, but you know, if I call things. But I really appreciate everybody's kindness towards me as a speaker and your submission to the role. And let's have member statements. I recognize the member from Yorkton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the community of Yorkton and the surrounding area once again came together this past winter for a truly special event, the Easter Seals Snow-O-Rama. Held on March 1st, Snow-O-Rama 2025 raised an outstanding $294,000 in support of children and youth experiencing disability. Well done. Since it began in 1977, Snow-O-Rama has now raised over $3 million for Easter Seals programs in Saskatchewan. The funds support 3 life-changing initiatives: Camp Easter Seal, Summer Fun, and Adaptive Technology Services, helping children build independence, confidence, and community. At the heart of Snow-O-Rama's success is Saskability's Yorkton, which organizes and drives this event with tireless dedication year after year. Their work, alongside the Yorkton Snow Riders Snowmobile Club, ensures that Snow-O-Rama continues to grow and inspire. Mr. Speaker, this event would not be possible without the incredible support of volunteers, sponsors, donors, bowlers, and snowmobile riders. This year, 179 riders and 71 bowlers raised pledges to achieve that remarkable total. Yorkton's Snow-O-Rama is more than a fundraiser. It's a celebration of family, community, and a commitment to caring for our neighbors. Thank you to the participants, organizers, and everyone who made this possible. We already look forward to this fantastic ride and fundraiser returning in the winter of 2026. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I recognize the member from Saskatoon Centre.
Miigwech, Mr. Speaker. I rise to recognize the efforts of first responders and grassroots community organizations in their response to Saskatoon's overdose crisis. As of March 31st, the Saskatoon Fire Department had responded to 837 overdose incidents since the start of 2025. It is the coordinated effort between first responders and grassroots community organizations that have saved countless lives. It is organizations like Prairie Harm Reduction that work in partnership with first responders to update the public and respond when necessary. I would like to thank organizations like Prairie Harm Reduction for their continued work in the community. I would also like to thank all the frontline workers from the Saskatoon Fire Department, Saskatoon Police Services, and the Saskatoon Paramedics for their continued efforts to make our community safe. Through partnership, first responders and the community organizations are saving lives. Their collaboration is an example of community development in the face of unprecedented despair. Mr. Speaker, I ask all members to join me in recognizing all first responders and all community organizations who are working together to save lives across Saskatoon and across the province. Miigwech.
Good here.
I recognize the member from Batoche.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. A grandma from Prince Albert, spending the winter in Mexico, learned of a need for busing students to a vocational high school there through the local Rotary Club. The students had been without busing for 8 years. The wheels and logistics began turning last fall, and ultimately, Sask River School Division in Prince Albert donated a retired bus to the Rotary Club of Prince Albert, who in turn transferred the bus over to the Rotary Club of La Penita to Conalep High School. The Rotary Club there covered the expenses of getting the bus to Mexico. The donated bus was from 2006 and had been off the road for a year and a half. It had its life up here in Canada, and the school division was happy to help the bus find new life down in Mexico. The 5,000-kilometer journey to deliver the bus, along with 10 boxes of humanitarian items, was made over Christmas break by a lead bus mechanic, Kevin Moreau, and his daughter, Jordan Moreau Semenoff, a teacher at Westmore High School in Prince Albert. They both live in Batoche constituency as well. The trip started December 26th, and they arrived January 1st in Guayabitos, Mexico. The father-daughter drove 12 hours a day, and Jordan kept us following along each day on Facebook. Yes, also.
I recognize the member from Regina University.
Mr. Speaker, on Friday night, the Regina Chamber of Commerce held their annual Paragon Awards. The Paragon Awards are an opportunity for people to come together and celebrate the innovation, drive, and excellence in local business. I was honoured to attend with so many of my opposition colleagues, both as a Regina MLA and as a former member of the Regina Chamber of Commerce Board. I'd like to thank Board Chair Wura De Silva and Chamber CEO Mike Tate for putting on a wonderful evening of awards and entertainment, and for the work they do year-round to promote and grow the Regina business community. Now more than ever, it is so important to champion our local enterprises and tell our story across Canada and the world. I'd like to congratulate all the nominees and winners, but I'd like to single out my constituent Adrian Gobbold, one of the owners of Regina Plumbing and Heating, for their nomination in Best Marketing and Advertising. I will also give a shout out to their company for selling the only made-in-Canada HVAC unit. So they narrowly lost out on the top spot in that category to another amazing Saskatchewan company, Western Agribition. I would like all members to join me in congratulating the Chamber for another successful Paragon Awards, as well as all the nominees and winners for the great work they do in our province's economy.
From White City, Capel.
On April 4th, over 500 people gathered for the Healing Through Humor Comedy Night. This incredible event was a fundraiser for the Lincoln's Life Mattered Foundation, where they raised over $55,000. This foundation was only registered in October of 2024, and to date has raised over $110,000. Rick and Debbie West, Lincoln's parents, formed this foundation in honor of their son Lincoln, who at 17 lost his life to mental health issues in June of 2024. And this fundraiser not only raised money, Mr. Speaker, it honored Rick and Debbie and their son Lincoln. Their goal of breaking the stigma surrounding mental health is one to be commended and celebrated. They are turning their pain into purpose and set up this foundation to do exactly that. The money raised goes to support and promote emotional well-being and equipping youth with the tools and the skills they need to lead healthy, fulfilling lives. And I want to thank Rick and Debbie West and their entire team that works with them in the foundation for their outstanding work and commitment to see that other families do not have to experience what they have lived through and will continue to live through. Mr. Speaker, together we will make a difference. And Rick and Debbie, thank you for turning your pain into purpose. Thank you.
I recognize the member from Regina Wascana Plains.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. At the end of February, a few MLA colleagues and I visited the town of La Ronge in northern Saskatchewan. We toured some of the community organizations there in La Ronge and heard firsthand of the good work these organizations do, but also what they need. We visited North Sask Special Needs Incorporated. The staff there operates programming and group homes for teens and adults with special needs. We spent an afternoon at Children North, Early Childhood Intervention Program, where they implement family support and father engagement programs, specialized support programs, a cognitive disability strategy, and an early childhood intervention program. We had the privilege of spending time at an emergency shelter at the Lac La Ronge Indian Band, where we heard of the good work that they do, but also of the challenges they face day to day. These organizations all do incredible work for the community and the northern communities, and the staffs love the work they do. But these organizations all face the challenge of being understaffed, underfunded, and underappreciated. These groups do amazing work, and it's time that the government showed them that the work they do is important, valued, and appreciated. These groups need to receive financial support from the government to meet an ever-increasing demand for services in the north.
Member from Weyburn, Bengoff.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It is an honour to rise today in this legislature to talk about a new investment being made in Saskatchewan's advanced education sector. Boeing Canada is investing $17 million for an expansion project to more than double the size of the Saskatchewan Aviation Learning Centre in Saskatoon, which is operated through the Saskatchewan Indian Institute of Technologies, while the Government of Saskatchewan is also investing $500,000 to support the program. This investment from Boeing Canada is the single largest investment made in SIIT in the institution's almost 5-decade-long history. This investment will see the centre grow to more than twice its original size and add more classroom space, dedicated avionics, and add more hands-on training space for students. This will allow Saskatchewan Indigenous students a path to pursue various high-demand careers in the aerospace industry, including aircraft maintenance engineers, pilots, and air traffic controllers. This program is one of the many ways Saskatchewan is committed to reconciliation through attracting investors to invest in our province, both in our education sectors and our private job sectors. It will help our First Nations community access high-skilled jobs, good careers, and the ability to be role models for people all around our province. Thank you.
Question period. I recognize the Deputy Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday, shocking comments surfaced from the member for Humboldt-Watrous. The Legislature belongs to the people of Saskatchewan, and the government is elected to serve the people of Saskatchewan. But now, members of Saskatchewan's Sikh community are shocked, hurt, and scared by the comments made by that member. The Premier hasn't said a word about these hateful comments. Will he rise, show some leadership, and condemn the member and the horrible comments she made?
Hear, hear. Hear, hear. I recognize the Premier. Hear, hear. Hear, hear.
Mr. Speaker. Yesterday, we saw both publicly and on the floor of this Assembly, the member from Humboldt-Watrous had rose and made and commented that the comments that she had made in her speech from the throne were inaccurate and they're inappropriate, Mr. Speaker. She retracted those comments on the floor of this legislature. She apologized for those comments, as well as apologizing, Mr. Speaker, publicly in the media as well. Mr. Speaker, this province most certainly has been built for over 100 years now for many people coming from many places all around the world, which is why our motto, Mr. Speaker, is from many people's strengths, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the member from Humboldt-Watrous has apologized and retracted those inaccurate and very, very inappropriate comments, Mr. Speaker, and I thank her for doing that.
I recognize the Deputy Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the member made comments in this chamber that were clearly written out in advance. This was premeditated hate. She planned to say this, Mr. Speaker. How can this Premier and his government possibly claim to represent the people from diverse communities of Saskatchewan when they continue to have a member in their own caucus who holds and openly states such hateful views?
Good question. I recognize the Premier.
Has apologized and retracted those inaccurate and, as I said, very inappropriate comments that were made on the floor of this Assembly. Mr. Speaker, when it comes to this government's broader support of everyone who lives in Saskatchewan or may be in Saskatchewan with their family, Mr. Speaker, I think our record is quite clear, whether it comes to supporting a robust immigration program in Saskatchewan, whether it comes to supporting newcomer communities, Mr. Speaker, whether that be in credential transferring so that they can work to the highest level of their ability in this province, whether it be in accessing post-secondary education to upgrade or micro-credential to ensure that they can qualify for the jobs and opportunities and careers that they may have been trained for, Mr. Speaker, somewhere else. Saskatchewan most certainly is from many people's strengths, always has been, Mr. Speaker, continues to be today, and I say it will be in the future.
Hear, hear. I recognize the member from Saskatoon University, Sutherland.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have been talking to my fellow community members non-stop since these hateful comments emerged yesterday. There have been many tears and a great deal of hurt. Calling someone a terrorist simply for being sick is hate speech. It does so much harm. Members of the community are asking me a question. I will ask the Premier now. Why does the member who spread such hate continue to sit in the government caucus?
Hear, hear. I recognize the Premier.
Mr. Speaker, with respect, I guess once again would repeat, Mr. Speaker, that the member has apologized on the floor of this Assembly and apologized more broadly to anyone and everyone, Mr. Speaker, with respect to those comments that were not only inaccurate but highly inappropriate, Mr. Speaker.
I recognize the member from Saskatoon University Sutherland.
Here. Mr. Premier, the apology is not good enough.
Hear, hear. Hear, hear.
This weekend, the Sikh community will mark Baisakhi. It is supposed to be a time of great celebration, but the comments made in this chamber have caused pain and hurt. The Premier has a chance to make a gesture of good faith. My colleague from Regina Pascoe has introduced a bill in this legislature that will make recognition of April as Sikh Heritage Month permanently. Will he rise and commit to working with our caucus to pass this critical legislation immediately?
Hear, hear. I recognize the Premier.
The proclamation of Sikh Heritage Month, Mr. Speaker, each and every year by this government, I think is also a signal, Mr. Speaker, and a show of support for not only the Sikh community, Mr. Speaker, which this government greatly supports in the city, the capital city, as well as across the province of Saskatchewan, Mr. Speaker, but I think also is a sign of this government being supportive of the entirety of the newcomer community, Mr. Speaker, whether we be a newcomer in the last number of years and be a first-generation Canadian, or whether, like myself, Mr. Speaker, you might be a third or fourth-generation newcomer to not only Canada, but to a community in Saskatchewan, Mr. Speaker. And so the proclamation of Sikh Heritage Month, Mr. Speaker, each and every year in this province is a signal, Mr. Speaker, is most certainly action, Mr. Speaker, supporting the Sikh community in this province.
I recognize the member from Saskatoon Westview.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday I asked the Sask Party government about a new report showing that rents in Saskatchewan are rising faster than everywhere else in Canada. And what was the Minister of Social Services' response? Everything is just fine. How out of touch. Does the minister really think that everything is just fine for families in my riding who are facing eviction if their rent goes up again?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In terms of rental rates in Saskatchewan, this government has put forward $88 million in this year's budget for renovation, repair, and maintenance of existing housing. We also have a $5 million rental incentive plan for new construction, Mr. Speaker. These are all things that will get more housing online and will increase the capacity that we have to find individuals housing in this province. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very right here. I recognize the member from Saskatoon Westview.
Mr. Speaker, here are the facts. Rent in Saskatchewan has gone up 34% in 5 years. 1 in 3 Saskatchewan people is struggling to pay their bills. And the Sask Party government thinks everything is fine. They have nothing to offer for relief to renters. Nothing but unchecked increases that are higher than everywhere else in Canada. Again, what does the minister say to families worried that they'll be thrown out on the street if their rent goes up again?
As the Minister of Social Services.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The member opposite referenced numbers from across Canada and where Saskatchewan sits in compared to the other provinces. According to rentals.ca, they've released their April 2025 report, and Mr. Speaker, Saskatchewan has the lowest average asking rent in the country for a one-bedroom apartment. That's $1,336 a month, which is over $200 less than the second lowest province, which happens to be NDP Manitoba, who have an average rent of $1,592, Mr. Speaker. Regina and Saskatoon remain one of the most affordable cities in Canada, and Regina rent prices having decreased year. You want to get up and ask a question? I look forward to seeing you get on your feet.
I recognize the member from Saskatoon Westview.
Mr. Speaker, the minister keeps saying that everything is fine when it comes to rent, and he's just plain wrong. He's not focused on the future. How do we ensure that people who have a roof over their heads today have a roof over their heads tomorrow? Yesterday, I also asked him about the way higher rents drive homelessness in our communities. His response, quote, "It's not a rental issue. What the issue is, Mr. Speaker, we have a drug problem in this province," end quote. Does he really think that families losing their homes to rising rents they can't afford have a drug problem?
I recognize the Minister of Social Services.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And the member opposite asked actually several questions within that one question. But when it comes to rental in Saskatchewan, Mr. Speaker, again, we're putting $88 million into repair, renovation, and rehabilitation of homes across Saskatchewan, including $9.2 million for 3 large projects to bring those back online. And that's all included in this budget, which the opposition voted against. So I'm not sure if they want us to really do this or not. Apparently they don't, because they voted against this very, very effective measure. Right. Mr. Speaker, when it comes to affordability in this province, this government has $2 billion in every budget in affordability initiatives. Right. Plus, we've added to that this year with different things like doubling the child benefit, the active families benefit, and we've also made the largest personal income tax cut since 2008 in this province, Mr. Speaker. That is going to make things more affordable for more residents of Saskatchewan.
I recognize the member from Regina, Wascana Plains.
Mr. Speaker, when we ask questions about the ways rent increases are driving homelessness in Saskatchewan, the minister blames it on drugs. He should rather blame it on almost 2 decades of Sask Party policies, punching down and forcing people onto the streets. It's the Sask Party government that has let rents climb 35% in 5 years. This Sask Party government has let thousands of units sit vacant. And this government that ended the direct payment of rent and utilities for social service clients, forcing thousands of evictions. Mr. Speaker, when will the Sask Party government take some responsibility for the homelessness crisis they created?
I recognize the Minister of Social Services.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I would just say this, Mr. Speaker. The homelessness issue is not just a Saskatchewan issue, it is a cross-country issue. We see it in BC, we see it in Ontario, we see it in every province, Mr. Speaker. I've had conversations with my counterparts from different provinces, as well as the previous federal minister prior to the election. We've had good discussions in terms of how each province is approaching this. And when we talk about the provincial approach to homelessness, Mr. Speaker, that's a $40.2 million investment into supportive housing, into transitional housing, funding outreach workers on the streets to be able to interact with individuals that find themselves in this situation, Mr. Speaker. We have a $40.2 million plan that is a large investment in the people of this province who need housing, and we'll continue down that road. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I recognize the member from Regina, Wascana Plains.
Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, there's no question that higher rents are leading to more homelessness, but the minister doesn't think that's the case. Blaming it all on drugs might be convenient, but it's far from the whole truth. Mr. Speaker, the fact is that the Sask Party government's choices have created this homelessness crisis, and their policies have made it worse. Mr. Speaker, instead of claiming that people losing their homes from sky-high rents just need to do less drugs, why don't they act to bring down rents for families?
I recognize the Minister of Social Services.
Mr. Speaker, it's a well-known fact in Saskatoon when they did their most recent counts that 82% of people that were contacted on the street that were homeless identified as having a substance abuse issue or an addiction, Mr. Speaker. It's in that provincial approach to homelessness where we have invested $40.2 million into ensuring that these individuals have a place to go, and also investing into the outreach workers who can meet those people in place, identify the barriers they have to get into housing, and address those barriers, whether that's through detox, whether that's through treatment. Right. We also have our complex needs shelters in Saskatoon and Regina, Mr. Speaker. We are tackling this from many different angles, Mr. Speaker, and we will continue to do so.
Hear, hear.
I recognize the member from Regina Elphinstone Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Another day, and I've got more questions about Life Labs. You remember Life Labs? They're American-owned. They fund Sask Party campaigns here and Trump Republican campaigns in the States. They've also been paid $60 million by that Sask Party government to provide lab collection services through a contract this government continues to hide. So while the Minister of Health announced yesterday he's, quote, happy to work with Life Labs, that's kind of exactly the problem, Mr. Speaker. It's the last day of the week. It's been a long week. I've asked this question every day, and I'm going to continue to ask it until we get that contract. Is today the day that that minister will release the contract?
I recognize the Minister of Health.
Mr. Speaker, I haven't pointed it out any day yet this week, but I'll take the opportunity now because the member opposite has pointed out political donations made by the parent company of Life Labs. The member continues to omit the fact that the parent company of Life Labs donated twice as much to Kamala Harris than they did to Donald Trump, Mr. Speaker. That's relevant to this conversation. But, Mr. Speaker, the most important part of this whole discussion, Mr. Speaker, the most important part of this whole discussion is the 3,000 Saskatchewan patients who depend on these services each and every day. We're going to make sure there is continuity of service so that the people of our province have access to care. Thank you.
I recognize the member from Regina Elphinstone Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. That minister keeps talking about 2004, a time when that minister, being one of the more youthful members of that caucus, couldn't even vote. And I can understand why he'd rather talk about 2004 than 2024, because that was the year that Life Labs was acquired by a Trump-donating American multinational, Mr. Speaker. Surely we can do better than that. Surely hardworking phlebotomists and couriers right here in Saskatchewan can earn a decent wage from a local, even better, a public employer. Saskatchewan taxpayers can rest easy knowing that their dollars are not going to a Trump-funding, for-profit American company. Is this really too much to ask for, Mr. Speaker? Is that minister's best answer really that is too much to ask for?
Recognize the Minister of Health.
Mr. Speaker, I find the opposition's position on this issue quite puzzling, Mr. Speaker. And I think about the member statement that we heard earlier today about Boeing's investment into this province, SIIT, to give Indigenous students better opportunities for a higher degree of education, Mr. Speaker, for more career opportunities. Guess what? I think everyone in this House knows that Boeing is a U.S. company. Should we say no to their investment in Saskatchewan people, Mr. Speaker? Again,
Order. Both sides. Minister.
All that to say, Mr. Speaker,
The Saskatchewan Health Authority's contract with Life Labs is to ensure that there is high-quality access to care for Saskatchewan patients. We are going to make sure that access continues to be there. Thank you.
Hear, hear. I recognize the member from Regina Walsh Acres.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Last week, I asked the Sask Party government about our phone call with the Texas-based company who sells our province's fishing licenses, and the person answering the phone was based in New York. Now, the walleye is our provincial fish, and we have world-class fishing here in Saskatchewan. If I want to go fishing for walleye, why do I need to talk to someone in New York? How does it make any sense for our jobs and our public dollars to be going into Donald Trump's hometown while he is imposing tariffs on our steel?
I recognize the Minister of the Environment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I am privileged to stand today and inform the House that when the Aspira contract was awarded, there was not one Saskatchewan company that bid the contract, and there was not one Canadian company that met the parameters of the request for proposal. So that's why there is no Canadian company providing this service. Aspira does great work, very happy. Many hunters provide feedback to our office, many anglers, and they are very happy with the level of service they are receiving through Aspira. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Hear, hear. I recognize the member from Regina Walsh Acres.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Saskatchewan people expect so much better from this Sask Party government. This government has had months to make a plan for workers and our economy. They promised to review capital procurement, but they haven't even reviewed existing U.S. contracts.
That's right.
Mr. Speaker, Saskatchewan is home to some pretty brilliant IT people in the sector. There is no reason why this work can't be sourced here, creating jobs in Saskatchewan, creating or contributing to our economy. Mr. Speaker, why won't the Sask Party scrap this U.S. contract and find someone in Saskatchewan to sell hunting and fishing licenses?
I recognize the Minister of Sask Builds and Procurement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First and foremost, I want to take this opportunity to thank all the Saskatchewan companies that procure government contracts here in the province of Saskatchewan. They're absolutely first rate, and they...
I'm having a hard time listening. Please, both sides, let's listen to the answer. Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. There's a lot of companies here in the province of Saskatchewan do a lot of government procurement and a lot of contracts, Mr. Speaker. In fact, we have the numbers and the records to show it. Over 90% of government procurement is done by Saskatchewan companies, Mr. Speaker. 90%. And when Saskatchewan companies bid on government contracts, over 95% of those contracts are awarded to Saskatchewan companies. Mr. Speaker, when we talk about Saskatchewan and Canadian companies, that number goes to 99% of all government procurement goes to either Saskatchewan or Canadian companies. We will take no advice or lessons from the members opposite. Our companies here in this province are doing a great job, and we're doing a great job on procuring. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I recognize the member from Regina Walsh Acres.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. That Sask Party government keeps standing up and saying they're committed to Canadian procurement. And then they say it's too hard and they have no choice but to hand their contracts to American companies, even though they've tried nothing and yet they're all out of ideas. Now, Mr. Speaker, I'm pretty sure that Saskatchewan people can answer questions about Saskatchewan parks and Saskatchewan hunting and Saskatchewan fishing. Does the minister think people in New York are better qualified than people in Saskatchewan to handle reservations and sell hunting and fishing licenses in this province?
I recognize the Minister of Sask Builds and Procurement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Obviously, the member opposite didn't hear the first answer that I just gave, so I'm going to talk a little slower so that they get the answer. So they do get it. Mr. Speaker, as I said in my first answer, over 90% of government procurement goes to Saskatchewan companies, Mr. Speaker. Over 90%. There is not I'm sure there's not another jurisdiction in Canada that can give that kind of number. Mr. Speaker, we will continue to do procurement the way we do. We do an oversight. We make sure that we look at Saskatchewan companies first. We always make sure that we're going to do due diligence. But the one thing we're going to do, Mr. Speaker, is making sure we're bringing best value to the taxpayers of the province of Saskatchewan.
I recognize the member from Saskatoon Centre.
Mr. Speaker, 2 libraries in Saskatoon were shut down in late March. Staff are being subjected to abuse constantly. Treating people who have overdosed from drugs, that is what the staff have been doing. And they've actually been witnessing drug deals right inside the library. The staff said the libraries have effectively become drug treatment centres because this Sask Party government has provided no other options for support. The libraries are supposed to reopen Monday. Every day, we ask this government about people dying in our province from drug overdose and suicide. We've heard platitude after platitude from the Minister for Mental Health and Addictions. Can this minister describe how she has helped the libraries to reopen and what has she done to protect the library staff?
I recognize the Minister of Mental Health and Addictions.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, our government has been very concerned about what's been going on in Saskatoon, and that is why we have been working very, very closely with the Saskatoon municipal leadership. We've been working closely with the fire department in Saskatoon and with our community-based organizations, Mr. Speaker, as well as setting up our Provincial Emergency Operations Centre. But, Mr. Speaker, what we're really focusing on is to help people overcome these addictions, and we're doing that by supporting their recovery, Mr. Speaker, and helping save lives, heal families, and strengthen our communities in doing this, Mr. Speaker, and we will continue on with that work.
Ministerial, I recognize the member from Lumsden Morse, who I think saw.
Mr. Speaker, I just had a late notice in terms of some students that are here in the Assembly behind me, and I just want to make mention of them. Oh, I'm sorry. Can I ask leave for an extended introduction?
Has requested leave for an extended introduction. Is leave granted?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So the students behind me are from Lumsden High School. I understand 54 of them. So welcome.
That's a lot of ice cream.
Unfortunately, I don't have ice cream today. I'll make good on my my promise of ice cream, but not today. I just was informed, and their teacher, and I may get this wrong because the spelling here is not quite what I can decipher, but it's Kelsey Gottfried. Did I get that right? I did. Wow. I can decipher some writing. Very good. Welcome to this, your Legislative Assembly. I'll be pleased to speak with you after question period here and this, your legislature, and I trust you had a good time here today viewing the proceedings that we've just watched together. Thank you.
I recognize the member from Saskatoon Stonebridge.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To you and through you, there she is. I seek leave for an extended introduction.
An extended introduction. Is leave granted?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To you and through you, it brings me great pleasure to introduce to you all Miss Paula Dvernichuk. She was my teacher in Marengo, Saskatchewan back in 1999. My mom looked at the history, the history book, and we found pictures of us together, and it's been a long time. I believe I saw you outside the legislature last year too. I really appreciate the work that you've done. You've shaped a lot of lives to the point that someone could be standing here in this chair where I am right now. So to you and your students, you're in great hands. I turned out okay, so I think you'll turn out okay too. Could everybody please welcome Ms. Paula Dvernicek, please, and thank you.
All right. Ministerial statements. Introduction of bills.
Item number 1, MLA Young, Regina South Albert.
I recognize the member from Regina South Albert.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that Bill number 602, the Buy Local Day Act, be now introduced and read a first time.
Hear, hear. It has been moved by the member from Regina South Albert that Bill number 602, the Buy Local Day Act, be introduced and read first time. Is it the pleasure of the Assembly to adopt the motion? Carried.
First reading of this bill.
When shall this bill be read a second time? I recognize the member from Regina South Albert.
The next sitting of the Assembly.
Next sitting. Presenting reports by standing and special committees. Orders of the day.
75-minute debate, MLA Hauser.
I recognize the member from Regina University.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I'm pleased to rise today, and at the end of my comments, I will be moving the following motion. That the Assembly calls upon the government to urgently review all contracts with American companies and cancel ones that could be fulfilled by Saskatchewan and Canadian-based providers instead. I'm so happy to rise today on this very, very important topic. Obviously, in the past 3 months with the chaos to the south of us, it has become more important than ever to focus on supporting Saskatchewan businesses, building local, buying local, hiring local. And while this has been at really top of mind in the past couple months, it's not a new concept to the New Democrats over here on the opposition side. Both in the most recent election and way back to 2020, we have been asking for and promoting policies that hire local Saskatchewan people, that focus on Saskatchewan procurement. We want to have Saskatchewan people and Saskatchewan businesses getting those hard-earned taxpayer dollars from the people of Saskatchewan. And you know, there's lots of these examples, and I'm sure the members have heard us talk a lot about SureCom, and this was before we even were dealing with Donald Trump to the south of us. We had a local company lose out to an American company, and something very easily, they're saying all the time, oh, we can't find a Saskatchewan company that can do it. SureCom was already doing the work here in Saskatchewan, and yet their jobs, 79 jobs, still went to the United States. That's simply not acceptable, Mr. Speaker. You know, my honourable colleague has spoken lots, as much as today, about Life Labs. But again, that's a $60 million contract for 7 years. It's not clear how much for the extension. Hopefully we'll get some clarity on that if the minister decides to table that, and as my colleague says, hope does spring eternal on that we will get a look at that sometime in the near future. You know, to say nothing of 3S Health, that has clinical products and pharmaceuticals and support services, $98.6 million on clinical products, again, from a United States company. And I'd be remiss if I didn't give a shout out, an honorable mention to the Regina bypass. Somehow we could not find in Saskatchewan or in all of Canada somebody that could build roads. So instead, we just had to say, oui, oui, monsieur, to a French company to get a $2 billion contract. Now, Mr. Speaker, to change tack a little bit here, I was born in British Columbia. I grew up in the great province of Newfoundland, in the great city of St. John's. I've lived in Ottawa and Toronto and Winnipeg and Edmonton, and even did 5 years in London, England. But I am so immensely proud to have gotten married, fallen in love, or maybe the other way around, fall in love first, and got married, bought a house, raised a family right here in Regina, and it's the honor of my life to now be able to represent the constituency of Regina University. And you know, Mr. Speaker, I'm by far not the first person from the East Coast to have gone west to find their fortune and make their future, Mr. Speaker. And there are so many people from out east who have come to the prairies to work and live and build their lives. And really, Saskatchewan needs to be that place that welcomes people from Victoria to St. John's to Iqaluit, but also indeed from Dubai to Delhi, from Tokyo to Tehran, from Kyiv to Kentucky, and every one of those people around the world should feel welcome and happy and part of Saskatchewan's story and Saskatchewan's future as they live and work and build a life here in this province. And if you can't tell from all that, Mr. Speaker, I'm very proud to be Canadian, and I'm proud to now make my life in Saskatchewan. And, you know, before the decade I've spent in Regina, I spent a fair bit of time in Manitoba and Alberta as well. And I know that the West faces unique challenges within the Federation of Canada. We've spoken out repeatedly against the carbon tax. Again, being from Newfoundland, I'm no stranger to feeling that Ottawa isn't listening to you. And you often feel that Western alienation that is real. But, Mr. Speaker, as I've said before, there is a big difference between the West wants in and the West wants out. At such a critical juncture economically for our province, when we are trying to diversify, when we are trying to get more investment, when we are trying to build up our local economies, we have the Premier who is going to be sharing a stage at a conference. The conference was founded by Preston Manning, who just in the past couple weeks is writing op-eds and quite deliberately stoking the flame of Western separatism. And the timing on that, it cannot be overstated, could not be worse for what we need to accomplish here in Canada. Because of the threat to the south of us with Donald Trump, there is actually more cohesion and more feeling of the need for Canada and Canadians to work together. And instead of capitalizing on that sentiment to actually get the job done and build an energy corridor from west to east, to build more pipelines, more rail lines, more transmission lines so we can get Saskatchewan's fantastic products to the rest of the world, instead of capitalizing on that and working with the premiers, we see this talk and being soft on separatism. And I just cannot for the life of me understand why we're getting that so backwards. And, you know, we're in the middle of a federal election. I know I'm looking forward to be over. I know everybody is, so we can move forward one way or the other, and that at least that aspect of chaos in this period of time is over with. But regardless of who the next Prime Minister is, what we really need to see is putting down those rattling sabers, stopping of the beating of the chests, and actually get to work to get the job done, to get the... Continuing to sow division is not going to help us diversify our markets and get our product over to Europe and the rest of the world. That's simply not going to happen. We need to start building, and we need to start building now. Mr. Speaker, we've got Mining Week coming up at the beginning of June. We've had opportunities over the past couple of days to talk with many people in the resource industry at the food, fuel, and fertilizer conference. We had a great meet and greet with Mosaic the other night. All these industries that we are so proud of here in Saskatchewan, every one of them wants predictability and stability. That is all that industry wants. That's what people want at the kitchen table. That's what the CEOs want, predictability and stability. And being soft on secession and separatism is the exact opposite of that. It's unfortunate. I know when the Premier was a couple weeks ago over at in England, my former place of residence, and he was at the London Stock Exchange, and I just can't fathom trying to say to investors, you know, put your money into Saskatchewan, bring a business over here, but you know what, I'm not exactly sure if we're even going to be part of Canada in the near future. That is the opposite of trying to sell what Saskatchewan is producing, Mr. Speaker. You know. But to bring it back a little more local here, again, Mr. Speaker, I'm excited about my colleague, the honourable member for Regina South Albert's bill. Shopping local, shopping Sask. And again, we go from that CEO, the C-suite, to the kitchen table. And it's been, you know, I was a member of the Regina Chamber of Commerce, so for a long time I've had a great love and support and getting a pretty good knowledge of the local businesses and industries here in Regina. And I mentioned in my member statement today the Paragon Awards that occurred on Friday night. So great to see so many fantastic business owners and community members in Regina. And it's been wonderful in Regina University to be able to eat and tour and shop at so many of the great local businesses. And I want to give a specific shout out to Victoria Square Mall in my riding. Not only are they a great place to do your shopping, they're an excellent community center. I'll be having my town hall there next Thursday night, just as a little plug. But they're actually, it's nearly 80% of the businesses in the Victoria Square Mall are locally owned and operated by Saskatchewan people. And that's going to be, I think, a record for a mall. And so not only is it a great place to shop, but they are such a community hub and center. They do so much for seniors. The Great Filipino Festival is usually there every year. And so just a special shout out to all the businesses at Regina University, but particularly Vic Square Mall for all the love there. But, you know, the NDP, we launched shopsk.ca, and it was just such a great way to coalesce in a one-click for people to be able to go and see, you know, what do I need? Is there a Saskatchewan business that can do this for me? And I mean, the thing is, most of the time there is, right? Going back to, you know, the subject at hand and what we're debating here today, and even as recently as a few minutes ago in question period, this idea that somehow, particularly in the tech sector, and I think with Aspira and the registration and hunting and fishing licenses, I just refuse to believe, Mr. Speaker, that there isn't a tech company in Saskatchewan or in all of Canada that can do this work. We have the incredible Cultivator powered by Connexus Innovation Hub right here in Regina, and so many of those startups and innovative young people and new businesses are working in that tech space, whether it's to do with parking, registration, scheduling. Like, I feel like maybe somebody could have a conversation with some of these people about what is possible right here in Saskatchewan. You know, we hear lots from the government all the time that, you know, things are complex. Maybe we're a little too slow over here to understand, as the honourable member had suggested earlier. You know, that we just can't wrap our heads around how difficult and complex it all is. But, Mr. Speaker, I think certainly we are, and I think the public in general gets tired of hearing that it's too hard from a government, because you know what? That's the job. That's the job, is to get the hard things done for the people of Saskatchewan. You know, things are complicated. Homelessness, health, education, but those are all the job of the government, to take on these hard challenges and to get them done. And that challenge exists here today, obviously. Perhaps it's easier to just hire an American company, particularly when they are lining the coffers of your own political party. That's an easier decision. But obviously, you have to make the extra effort to get the...
I'm going to ask the member to apologize and withdraw for that comment.
Mr. Speaker, that broke my record of nominees. I've been trying to keep it. Oh, darn. It was a good streak while it was going. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just again, to focus on the task at hand here, the great opportunity and future we have here in Saskatchewan is based on our local people and the work they do and the jobs they do. And I find it so insulting all the time that somehow we don't have the expertise, that we don't have the drive, that we don't have the power, don't have the innovation right here in Saskatchewan to get so many of these jobs done and this work done. And, so obviously I'll give a plug for my colleagues' bill in terms of buy local and shop local and shop Sask. I'll give a plug for the NDP's great website that we managed to do here on the opposition side. I'm not entirely sure why the government couldn't do a similar thing, encouraging people to buy local in Saskatchewan. The Manitoba government did, the BC government did, but took the ingenuity and wherewithal and gumption of the official opposition to get that together and promote these local businesses. But with that, Mr. Speaker, I'm very much looking forward to entering into debate with my colleagues across the way here. This is the first time I'm on my feet for a 75-minute debate. Mr. Speaker, I would now like to move the following motion, that the Assembly calls upon the government to urgently review all contracts with American companies and cancel ones that could be fulfilled by Saskatchewan and Canadian-based providers instead. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
It's been moved by the member from Regina University that the Assembly calls upon the government to urgently review all contracts with the American companies and cancel ones that could be fulfilled by Saskatchewan and Canadian-based providers instead. Is the Assembly ready for the question? I recognize the member from Kenora-Pelly.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, when you look at the road building portion of contracts that have been awarded to Saskatchewan contractors, look no further than local companies who have been building highways in this province for years. Some of the existing Saskatchewan companies can trace their roots back to the 1940s. Passing lanes, paving projects, full rebuilds, maintenance crushing, and preservation projects have been and will continue to be done by Saskatchewan companies, including First Nation-owned companies. Back prior to this government, this province lost a lot of local Saskatchewan contractors due to lack of work and tendering. The lack of foresight into Saskatchewan's reliance on our highway infrastructure is troubling, and it is something that we are still trying to catch up on. Back in the opposition's years in government, it was not uncommon to see auction sales of contractors who simply had no work. I know that there was a field in the RM of Hill out by Macklin, coincidentally owned by the member for Kindersley's father, that housed the 1986 WRT asphalt plant from 1992 to 2003. Literally no work at all for an asphalt plant in Saskatchewan. That company was fortunate because they could afford to leave an asphalt plant sitting in a field, hoping that at some point in time, the opposition would decide that the people of Saskatchewan would need highways to drive on. But there were a lot of Saskatchewan contractors at the time that weren't so fortunate. The busiest place to see Saskatchewan contractors was in Nisku, Alberta, at the Ritchie Brothers auction site. Funny enough, that asphalt plant was built by a Saskatoon company who builds asphalt plants for customers in the entire country. Not only did they build asphalt plants for Canadians, Mr. Speaker, WRT Equipment also built 7 asphalt plants for the United States government in the mid-1990s. They needed to find other places to build equipment because no one here was ordering asphalt plants. And that's because there was no work. It's a great example of how our economies are intertwined. This government has made investment in infrastructure not only a priority, but a priority for Saskatchewan contractors. The upcoming tendered passing lanes on Highway 10 between Melville and Fort Qu'Appelle is a much-needed addition to our infrastructure system, and I'm in support of this, as I believe everyone on this side of the House is. Investments in the Weyburn Roundabout, Estevan, and Larange are all examples of Saskatchewan contractors that are building with the people in this province for the people of the province. Where we can use Saskatchewan contractors, we do. Our government has built up capacity in this province where companies know that there is work for them and their people. These jobs give our Saskatchewan contractors the ability to not only build for all of us, but to also be able to give back to the local communities they work in. Since this government has formed power in 2007, there have been a lot of infrastructure investments. But here's one you may not know of. Years ago, I had a friend in Buchanan who had a son who lived in Cold Lake, Alberta. He had told me that it was years since he drove on Highway 55 to see his son in Cold Lake. He said the highway was an absolute disaster. The 55 highway is a northern east-west corridor similar to Highway 16 being central and Highway 1 being southern. But to be a disaster to drive on, I told him to try it again. He took my word on it and he tried it. The next week he came back and he said, "Holy man, you were right." How did that highway get built so fast and so well? The answer? All Saskatchewan contractors. So you go in a matter of just a few years and Highway 55 from Meadow Lake all the way to the Alberta border is completely rebuilt and all by Saskatchewan contractors. The funny part I see about that particular piece of road was that there was a two-time highways minister that resided in that area that did nothing for any investment years prior. The lack of consideration for a trade corridor is astounding, but in a bad way. While we are talking about bad decisions or no decisions at all, I'd like to talk about the passing lanes and the benefit that they have to moving traffic through high-volume areas. The very first set of passing lanes were put on Highway 10 between Fort Qu'Appelle and Regina in 2013 by a Saskatchewan company. That means there were exactly 0 sets of passing lanes when the NDP were in power. I don't know why the opposition never saw value in passing lanes, but I know the people of Saskatchewan sure have. A few other examples of passing lanes put in by Saskatchewan companies were Highway 5 west of Humboldt in 2017, 6 and 39 south of Regina in 2018, Highway 4 between North Battleford and Cochin in 2018, Highway 7 west of Rosetown in 2019, Highway 9 between Melville and Yorkton in 2020, and Highway 2 north of Prince Albert in 2021. I know that's a long list of passing lanes, but I'm not done yet. There was passing lanes west of Saskatoon on Highway 14 in 2021, passing lanes on Highway 12 north of Martinsville in 2022, and passing lanes on Highway 39 by Estevan in 2020. Again, Mr. Speaker, all of these sets of passing lanes increase safety and efficiency, but exactly 0 sets of passing lanes were built when the opposition was in government. What would we have right now? I guess you could only imagine. But considering the industry has built up capacity, there are more Saskatchewan contractors building highway now, so I would say we're on the right path. Over 95% of contracts awarded this year were awarded to Saskatchewan companies. That's an extremely high number and something to be very proud of. Knowing that 95% has been awarded to Saskatchewan companies means that there are investment back into our communities, which provide opportunity and jobs for our residents. Another sector of building Saskatchewan capacity is the actual engineering and design of the projects. Since taking power in 2007, we have also built up capacity. There are a number of individuals who are Saskatchewan-owned engineering firms that either didn't exist prior to us taking power or struggled to get work or worked outside of Saskatchewan. I know that a number of Saskatchewan engineers that took advantage of the fact that this government made infrastructure a priority and started their own engineering firms. There's a few here in Regina, there's a few in Saskatoon, and there's a few in Prince Albert. They have benefited from our direction to invest in our province. And in turn, they have invested in the people and their own infrastructure to provide services for our government. All of them are Saskatchewan-owned. So when the members opposite put out a motion supporting Saskatchewan companies, I will tell you right now, Mr. Speaker, that this government is writing the book on supporting Saskatchewan companies. There was always an anti-Saskatchewan contractor sentiment coming from the other side. Always. As far as Saskatchewan businesses went, there was never any support. So I find it funny when the opposition is now trying to be some kind of pro-Saskatchewan business opposition. I really do find that funny.
Campaigns managed outside the office. Their campaigns are managed outside.
A lot of them weren't even in Saskatchewan when they were in power last. But I was. And I was there when there was literally no support for Saskatchewan businesses. I witnessed it all firsthand. Not through a book or a news article or a bunch of news articles. I was on the front lines when the members opposite would do anything to stop the growth of Saskatchewan companies.
Ask the member to apologize and withdraw that comment. And resign.
I can't imagine how many other Saskatchewan companies in other sectors dealt with the exact same thing as we did. The history of the members opposite and their support for Saskatchewan contractors speaks for itself. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Riversdale.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you for the history lesson from the member from Kenora Pelly. The Sask Party and talking about the 90s, name a more iconic duo. I've got one. The Sask Party and burning things down fast. I'm talking fable budget surpluses, charter rights of children, and now derelict buildings. But seriously, which one of you was responsible for all those highway issues? You, me. I was in elementary school. I think Teed was too. I think most of us were school children, but I digress. Mr. Speaker. Today, I rise in strong support of this motion because it is long past time this government put Saskatchewan workers and businesses first. For years, the Sask Party has handed out lucrative contracts to foreign corporations while shutting out homegrown Saskatchewan companies. This isn't just bad economics, it's a betrayal of the people who built this province. Let's look at the record. First, the government outsourced our parks, registration and hunting and licensing systems to Aspira, an American company. But why? Saskatchewan has tech firms and local providers more than capable of handling this work. I've heard that there weren't any that bid when the procurement process was opened, and I know that there's people out there who can do it. I guess it just takes hard work to reach out and find out why they're not bidding on this contract, and this government doesn't really do hard work. That's right. And again, the government claims that they can't cancel their contract with Aspira because then people couldn't go to parks this summer. But we've seen bold leadership out of Manitoba, where when faced with the same problem, they chose to let people in for free while they seek out a new partner. This government also firstly privatized community lab services, handing a contract to Life Labs, while Saskatchewan workers at the former Saskatchewan Health Authority labs faced uncertainty. Life Labs, as we know now, is an American-owned company, and the government sat on their hands for 10 months regarding extending the contract. Now they claim they had no choice but to extend the contract for the sake of patients. Great news for Life Labs, who just happens to donate to the Sask Party and Donald Trump, and apparently Kamala Harris, although I don't know why that's relevant because she's not the one trying to annex our country. This government claims to care about healthcare, yet they're more interested in outsourcing and cutting funding to healthcare than strengthening local services. And let's talk about Surecom Industries, a Saskatchewan success story in tire recycling. This government gave a contract to Crum Rubber Manufacturing, again, an American company, leading to 79 layoffs at Surecom so far. 79 Saskatchewan workers, people with families, mortgages, and deep roots in this province, cast aside because this government refuses to prioritize local businesses. But it doesn't stop there. The member from Kenora-Pelly likes to point out the highway works done by the Saskatchewan government or Saskatchewan companies that are happening now. But when it comes to big money contracts, apparently our Saskatchewan companies just aren't good enough. Yes, I'm talking the Regina Bypass, a $2 billion project. The most expensive infrastructure project in Saskatchewan history was handed to Vinci, a French multinational corporation. $2 billion. And yet the Sask Party couldn't find a way to ensure Saskatchewan companies and workers led this project. And while they're quick to send money overseas, they're also quick to send patients out of province. Instead of investing in our hospitals and surgical capacity, this government is sending Saskatchewan patients to Calgary for knee and hip surgeries, to a private clinic that, in fact, also donates to the Sask Party. Coincidence? I think not. While this government sells out Saskatchewan, the Saskatchewan NDP have been fighting to put workers and businesses first. We launched shopsk.ca, a platform to empower Saskatchewan people to support local businesses, because we believe in the talent and resilience of our entrepreneurs. We also want to tariff-proof our economy with trade-enabling infrastructure, railways, highways, pipelines, and power lines, so we're not dependent on America. We've been calling for a Saskatchewan first procurement strategy long before the threat of U.S. tariffs. Unlike the Sask Party, we don't need a trade war to remind us that Saskatchewan jobs should come first. And let's talk about those tariffs. This government was slow to act, dragging its feet while our producers and manufacturers faced uncertainty. We were first out there pushing them to remove U.S. liquor from distribution, to commit to Canadian and Saskatchewan procurement, and to stand up for our steel workers. While premiers across the country were announcing their plans and publicly addressing their constituents, the Premier of Saskatchewan couldn't be bothered to hold a press conference. Instead, the Premier decided that he would wait until the next day to have a meeting to start planning the response to tariffs. And today, we're still left wondering, what's the plan? They've also failed to take Chinese canola tariffs seriously over these past 6 months. So apparently, it's a pattern for these guys to hang out our producers and our industry out to dry. So I have to ask, why did it take public pressure for this government to do the bare minimum? And let's not forget, this is the same government that removed the Canadian flag from their media room. A petty, symbolic gesture that speaks volumes. Now they're trying to make friends with Preston Manning and his separatists instead of looking for solutions to the real problems here. Why is the Sask Party so ashamed of being part of Canada? Why do they treat our federation with such contempt while cozying up to foreign corporations?
Member, I'm going to ask you, there's a number of things that have been said, and it seems to be riding that line. They're contempt for the Federation, these kind of statements. It's private members' day, so we have a little more latitude, but please keep your comments in a way that should be befitting of this chamber, please. Thanks.
Speaker, this motion is simple. Review the contracts, cancel the ones that should go to Saskatchewan and Canadian businesses, invest in our people instead of outsourcing their futures. The Sask Party has a choice. Will they continue to care more about jobs and political donors in New Jersey, California, and New York more than their own backyard? Will they continue to sell out Saskatchewan workers, or will they finally stand up for the people of this promise? A vague promise to cut ties with American vendors, but no real timeline or plan, simply is not enough. The Saskatchewan NDP know where we stand. Saskatchewan jobs should go to Saskatchewan workers. It's time this government agreed. I am so happy today to be getting up and supporting our Saskatchewan businesses. Again, there are a number of strong, creative, resilient businesses in Saskatoon, Riversdale, and I've put many of them on our Shop SK platform. This government talks big talk about the percentage that we're paying or that we're giving to Saskatchewan companies, but I'd like to see the details of that. How many just have shell corporations as Canadian companies? And what's the dollar figure? It seems like all the big contracts, you know, $60 million to Life Labs, $2 billion on the bypass. It seems like the big ones, they tend to go out of province, and I don't know why they can't go to companies here at home. So with that, yeah, I will be supporting the motion from the member from Regina University.
Hear, hear. I recognize the member from Batoche.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to proudly highlight how our government's approach to procurement is delivering real results for the people of Saskatchewan. We have a procurement strategy that puts Saskatchewan first, a strategy built on stability, opportunity, and common sense. Right. Strong, steady Saskatchewan. That's more than just a slogan, Mr. Speaker. It's a reflection of how we lead, through stability, vision, and action. While the rest of the country is losing jobs and struggling to find economic footing, Saskatchewan is leading the country in job growth. And one of the most powerful drivers behind that growth is our strategic approach to sourcing contracts, goods, and services. While some might have panicked or pointed fingers, our government took a strong but measured approach, working aggressively with U.S. officials while also preparing for every possibility. The result? Most Saskatchewan exports remain free of U.S. tariffs. That's a major win for our producers, manufacturers, and our exports. Mr. Speaker, let me begin with the numbers. Despite a globally connected economy, just 3%, or $81 million, of all Crown sector procurements annually go to U.S. suppliers. That's a small fraction, and we're working to make it even smaller. In fact, over the last 5 years, Saskatchewan has awarded 99% of all procurements to Canadian companies, with less than 1% going to U.S. firms. That's not by accident, that's by design. We directed our Crown corporations to act, not just react. For example, Lotteries and Gaming Saskatchewan was directed to source $43 million in upgrades for VLTs and slot machines from non-U.S. suppliers. That's real action. And that's $43 million being reinvested into suppliers we can rely on. But our efforts don't stop there. Our Crown corporations are actively pursuing every opportunity to reduce U.S. procurement, while still delivering the best possible value for Saskatchewan taxpayers. And it's working. Consider SaskPower's Aspen Power Station project. In consultation with their EPC contractor, they evaluated the cost impacts of tariffs on a major piping subcontract. The result? A Saskatchewan company beat out a U.S. firm and secured the contract. That's a win for our economy and our workforce. In fact, our Crown sector is on a major upward trend. In 2025-26, we are forecasting $2.8 billion in capital spending, a $400 million increase over last year. Over the next 4 years, we're looking at $10.5 billion in capital investment. That's not just big numbers, that's big opportunity. Already, in the first 3 quarters of this fiscal year, $1.2 billion, 75% of all Crown procurement has gone to Saskatchewan suppliers. And we're also building a more inclusive economy. $92 million has been awarded to Indigenous suppliers, helping us meet our growth plan goal of growing Indigenous participation in Saskatchewan's economy. And let's not forget the Ministry of Sask Builds and Procurement, Mr. Speaker. They've shown that procurement can be local, competitive, and transparent all at once. In the last year alone, just under 90% of all executive government construction procurement was awarded to Saskatchewan suppliers. That's not only a strong record, it's a strong signal that Saskatchewan builders are stepping up and delivering for our province. Over the long term, our track record is even more impressive. Saskatchewan has awarded over 99% of procurement contracts to Canadian companies over the past 5 years. That's a clear testament to our values. Buy Canadian, support Saskatchewan. And as we look to the future, Sask Builds continues to prioritize local and Canadian suppliers, while still ensuring best value for the taxpayer. We will continue using a fair and transparent RFP process, one that respects privacy, encourages competition, and delivers quality infrastructure on time and on budget. Mr. Speaker, that balance matters, especially now. Government capital projects that were previously paused are now moving forward again, and we're working closely with industry to prioritize Canadian suppliers wherever possible. But we're doing it the right way, responsibly, fairly, and strategically. We are also working with our industry partners to explore how to best track and report U.S. product use, not punish or restrict unnecessarily, but to enhance accountability, manage risk, and preserve value for taxpayers. At the same time, we respect that individual companies deserve their privacy and that competition is essential in a thriving economy. It's about getting the balance right. Mr. Speaker, our construction partners are vital to our economic momentum, and we will continue working with them every step of the way to find the right path forward. And at the heart of all is one unshakable commitment. We will always put Saskatchewan interests first. That's how we protect jobs, that's how we protect industries, that's how we protect families. And speaking about industries, let's talk about steel. Mr. Speaker, our government has shown unwavering support for Saskatchewan's steel industry, especially Evraz. To help secure up to 400 jobs, SaskPower issued an order for 10,000 tons of steel, valued at $20 million, to Evraz, right here in Regina. And Sask Energy continues to use Evraz steel whenever available. For the Aspen Power Station alone, they procured over 125 kilometers of pipe from Evraz. Since 2019, that total has exceeded $79 million. That's real support, real investment, and real Saskatchewan jobs. We're not only building infrastructure, we're building livelihoods. And while we're keeping dollars and local jobs, we're not closing ourselves off from the world. We're expanding. Our global trade presence is strong and growing, with 9 trade offices around the world that are helping to diversify markets, build partnerships, and yes, create jobs here at home. That forward-thinking engagement is making Saskatchewan more competitive each year. And speaking of competition, we are now the only carbon tax-free province in Canada. That's right, the only one. This bold decision will make our industries more competitive, lower electricity costs, and help small businesses grow, all while creating more jobs and leaving more money in the pockets of Saskatchewan families. Mr. Speaker, the facts are clear. We are leading the nation in job growth. We are reinvesting in Saskatchewan workers, suppliers, and manufacturers. We are supporting Indigenous businesses and growing local participation. And we are managing risk, expanding global markets, and keeping costs down. This is not just about procurement. It is about building a stronger province, one contract, one supplier, and one project at a time. It's about leading with strength, delivering with steadiness, and putting Saskatchewan first, always. Strong, steady Saskatchewan. That's who we are. That's how we lead. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I recognize the member from Saskatoon-Stonebridge.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's a pleasure to be on my feet for my first 75-minute debate. I appreciate the passion of people on both sides, but the record needs to change. I made some adjustments to what I'm going to say based on what I've heard from the members on the other side. In particular, to the member from Kenora Pelly, this is just a little brief article I need to read for you. Saturday, March 22nd, 1997, David Roberts, Globe and Mail. Saskatchewan was on the brink of declaring bankruptcy in early 1993 and might have done so if the Prime Minister Mulroney had not stepped in with emergency financial assistance. Romano revealed this during the interview. Hear, hear. Shortly after the election, he disclosed just how precipitously close the province came in early 1993 to being unable to pay creditors during the Saskatchewan debt crisis. The Bank of Canada was chilled by this, as was the federal government, and I must pay a little tribute to Mulroney here in his words, because he was able, through his Minister of Finance, to grease some payment from the federal government to the province of Saskatchewan. Mr. Romano said the federal finance minister met secretly in Ottawa, the provincial finance minister met secretly in Ottawa with the federal counterpart, explaining the province's dangerous fiscal position and how the province was close to defaulting on its debt payments on more than $15 billion. Yes. At that time, the interest rates were significant, and we had to make some decisions based on the previous government. So whenever a Sask Party government official stands up and says, "Woe is me, the 90s were so difficult," there was a reason. It was because of a previous government, and we're looking at the same thing with a $38 billion debt that just increases by a billion every year, year after year. So all that being said, I'll move on to the motion. Over the course of the 15 months leading up to my election on October 28th, I had the pleasure of meeting so many incredible people across communities large and small who generously shared their time, their experiences, and their hopes for a better life here in Saskatchewan. Those conversations deeply impacted me. They were about politics, but also much more than that. They were about people striving for opportunity, stability, and fairness. Now, as their MLA of Saskatoon-Stonebridge, I carry those stories with me, and I remain committed to honoring them every day. One of those conversations sticks with me in particular. During a stop at a senior's residence, I met a kind and thoughtful woman named Marilyn Olson. She approached me to talk not just to share her own experiences, but about something much bigger. She shared with me prior to last spring's session in 2024 how her family's business, Surecom, had been mistreated and neglected by the very government that was supposed to support Saskatchewan businesses. Shame. She asked me if I'd be willing to speak with her son, Shane Olson, and I said, of course, and followed through. Now, to be clear, the motion is about procurement, but this is still relevant in terms of the mentality of how we can support Saskatchewan companies, Canadian companies, at the expense of the Americans who they can go generate their own economic activity. When I reached out, Mr. Olson was open and eager to talk. He was in the thick of dealing with government inaction, specifically the lack of follow-through on commitments that had been made to his company back in 2016 and 2017. At that time, Surecom's tire recycling facility had tragically burned down, and the company had a major decision to make: reinvest, rebuild, or exit the industry. It was a turning point. Mr. Olson chose to rebuild with his company, but he did so based on three key assurances from then Environment Minister, who is now our current Premier. Surecom was seeking a long-term contract through the tire stewardship of Saskatchewan, assurance of supply, and a voice at the table as a stakeholder in their own industry. Those commitments were backed by legislation that created the TSS, a move that at that time seemed like a step forward. But what followed was anything but supportive. Not long after, an American company began to insert itself into the tire recycling space in Western Canada, and Surecom quickly became the target of interference and disruption. Let's not forget, Surecom wasn't just another company. They were there for over 25 years. It was a major contributor to Saskatchewan's economy. Every dollar they earned through recycling services rippled out into the communities, creating jobs, economic activity, and prosperity. But since April 30th, 2023, Surecom's tire processing facility has been forced to shut down completely. 79 jobs have been lost since that time. That means not a single used tire has been turned into value-added products here in Saskatchewan, no crumb rubber, no recycled goods, no sustainable reuse. Instead, the tires are simply being shredded and shipped off to an American company based out of Los Angeles. In order to keep their manufacturing operations alive, Surecom has had to import crumb rubber from BC, Alberta, and Ontario, over £1 million per month. Think about that. That's an enormous cost to just stay afloat. It's a huge blow to their competitiveness, a burden on their business model, and a step backward in terms of environmental responsibility and carbon emissions. This course of action, the one that led to Surecom's struggles, was not a case of bad luck. It was in many ways driven by what Mr. Olson and others describe as propaganda, false pretenses, and a shocking lack of integrity. This wasn't just a business dispute. This was an orchestrated effort that undermined one of Saskatchewan's most innovative companies, one that made high-quality products and provided good-paying jobs that people were proud of all here in Saskatchewan. And this should matter to every one of us, at least it should, especially for all of us in this legislature, because the tire levy that funds tire recycling in Saskatchewan, that's public money. Those are public funds collected with the promise that they'll be used to serve the people of the province. But instead of being used to build up local industry, those funds may have been used to work against Surecom, the very kind of homegrown business we should be supporting. The economic fallout from this failure is substantial and ongoing. The losses to Saskatchewan's economy through wages, lost jobs, lost tax revenues are in millions of dollars. That's money that could have been flowing into local communities, into public services, into pockets of workers and families across this province. Instead, Surecom was forced to lay off many of its employees, as I mentioned earlier, and the tire recycling work, it's now being outsourced, shipped away using the same rail cars and trucks that should be moving Saskatchewan's food, fuel, and fertilizer to market. Surecom also maintains that they were excluded from the 2021 request for proposals. And even though a mediator was appointed in 2022 to try to resolve the issue, TSS rejected every one of their reasonable requests. No long-term contract for Saskatchewan companies and people, no guaranteed supply, and no seat at the table for a business with decades of experience in the industry. Instead, they were offered a mere 6-month agreement with a 30% cut in supply compared to what they'd previously been receiving. That kind of instability would challenge any company's survival. For Surecom, it pushed them to the brink. Now, all that being said, our park system and hunting and fishing licenses, this is somewhere in the range of $1 to $2 million that we're sending across the border to the United States. We could have been examining these issues 3 months ago. We were calling for this legislature to come back in mid-January early. But the government only does that for emergency sessions like Bill 137, apparently. While most other provinces use either an in-house system or a Canadian company for their parks booking system, this government has decided to outsource this work to Aspira Connect, an American company based in Texas. And I can verify with the Minister of the Environment that the system does work well. But I have so much more faith in the people of Saskatchewan that we could build that product, we could use that product as well, and create a product that can be easy to use in short order. That work can be done by companies like Vendasta, and I really do look forward to the opportunity to compel this government to share with us the names of all of the businesses associated with parks from last year and parks from this year. Because when I asked in committee, I was told that I could not get this year's businesses, and I was also told I'd have to wait for last year's businesses. So I look forward to the opportunity to do that research, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
I recognize the member from Carrot River Valley.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I am pleased to rise and be part of the 75-minute debate. We find ourselves in a scenario that we would not have predicted 12 months ago. Our largest trading partner, the United States of America, has imposed sanctions on us that hurt people, businesses, and industries on both sides of the border. As a result of these actions of one man, the President of the United States, tariffs have been placed on specific Saskatchewan products and Canadian products shipping into the U.S. The unpredictability of this environment of if, when, or what further tariffs may be imposed by him creates a situation of uncertainty. Our government is working for a strong and stable Saskatchewan. We must continue to work to mitigate the situation with further measured action. We have a plan for responding to tariffs that all members supported. We have a plan to keep life affordable for Saskatchewan people. We have a plan to grow the economy and create jobs. Mr. Speaker, we support the complete removal of the federal carbon tax on everything for everyone, including removal of federal industrial carbon tax that negatively impacts Saskatchewan businesses and drives up the cost of Canadian-made products. Our decision to make Saskatchewan the only carbon tax-free province in the country will make our industries and small businesses more competitive, create jobs, and lower the cost of electricity for everyone in our province. Our Premier and ministers will continue to work alongside all other premiers, federal ministers, and Canadian business leaders to engage with the U.S. government at all levels to emphasize the harm tariffs will cause. We continue to support the expanding vital infrastructure projects, including ports, pipelines, and rail, including their construction and seamless operations, and will work to provide swift approval on any projects that pass through Saskatchewan. Our government will continue to reduce Saskatchewan's reliance on exports to the U.S. by increasing Saskatchewan's exports to other countries through international trade missions and trade offices. We are expanding our presence in the global economy. Mr. Speaker, the Government of Saskatchewan's commitment to procuring from Saskatchewan-based companies remains strong. Historically, Saskatchewan has awarded nearly 90% of all procurements to Saskatchewan companies over the past 5 years. 90%. When Saskatchewan companies bid on the contract, that number jumps to 95%. In the same period, the province has awarded more than 99% of procurements to Canadian companies, with less, and I say less, than 1% awarded to American companies. The Ministry of Highways is also committed to Saskatchewan companies. In the 2024-25 construction year, over 96% of the value of awarded contracts went to Saskatchewan companies. In the first 3 quarters of 24-25, the Crown sector awarded $1.2 billion to Saskatchewan suppliers, 75% of all Crown procurement. Just 3% of all Crown sector procurements are awarded to U.S. suppliers each year. In other words, 97% are awarded to non-U.S. suppliers. The Crown's awarded $92 million to Indigenous suppliers in the first 3 quarters of 2024-2025, and this grows the Indigenous participation in our economy. As previously announced, Lottery and Gaming Saskatchewan will be ensuring that $43 million worth of VLT and slot machines that they will be procuring in 2025-26 will not be sourced from the U.S. Sask Builds is always working to procure more Saskatchewan and Canadian goods while getting the best value for the taxpayer dollar. They will continue to use the fair and transparent request for proposal, or RFP, process. For Sask Builders' major projects, all general contractors were Canadian, and the majority were right here from Saskatchewan. Almost all cases where an out-of-province contractor is chosen, there was no local bid. In cases where out-of-province contractors were chosen, they often end up hiring Saskatchewan subcontractors. Government capital projects have been unpaused with a goal to prioritize Canadian suppliers. Saskatchewan Bills and Highways met with construction stakeholders in late March, providing feedback. They are working with industry to determine how to best report U.S. products while continuing to get best value for dollar and not delaying projects. They are cognizant and respectful of individual companies' privacy and business competition practices in our province. They will continue to work with our construction partners on a path forward and will always put Saskatchewan interests first. The Ministry of Sask Builds and Procurements has had success in awarding local contractors. Mr. Speaker, the Ministry of Parks and Environment are always working towards including more local procurement without jeopardizing services for the people of Saskatchewan. Regarding both the compound reservation system and the HAL system, there was no Saskatchewan bid. Abruptly cancelling contracts would result in penalties and immediate loss of service for Saskatchewan. It should be noted that the data is maintained in Canada. We are supporting efforts to increase procurement from Saskatchewan-based employers, like the recent announcement by Saskatchewan Crowns to increase procurement of steel from Evraz right here in Regina. The steel mill, to support it, Sask Power issued an order for 10,000 tons of steel, valued at approximately $20 million. Sask Power uses the steel for construction of transmission structures and other infrastructure that is critical to maintain Saskatchewan's power grid. The announcement was made with the Evraz corporate leadership and with United Steelworkers. I quote, "Evraz Canada has been a proud part of Saskatchewan's economy for nearly 70 years. Evraz Canadian Senior Vice President Don Hunter said, "The commitment we are seeing today from the provincial government is a strong signal that the government of Saskatchewan recognizes the importance of domestic steel manufacturing, not only for Evraz workers who depend on it, but for the broader economy that benefits from a strong and resilient supply chain." Mr. Speaker, collaboration between Sask Power and Evraz, along with steel structure fabricators, Brandt and J&E Welding, will result in a made-in-Saskatchewan solution that will support the provincial economy while ensuring reliable power for residents and businesses. The United Steelworkers have been at the forefront of fighting for our jobs and for our industry. I'm quoting U.S. Local 5890 President Mike Day. When hearing of commitments like this from the Saskatchewan government, it eases some of the uncertainty our members have been facing. Evers is currently working on an order from Sask Energy, which purchased 125 kilometres of steel pipe. It will supply natural gas to Sask Power's Aspens Power Station. Our initiatives help to keep over 400 employees working. We are protecting our jobs, our economy, our residents. While the rest of Canada is losing jobs, Saskatchewan is leading the country in jobs growth. We balanced our budget while every other province has a huge deficit. While our provinces are cancelling our affordability promises, our government has kept every commitment we made to lower taxes and make life more affordable. In the context of our geopolitical climate, we followed through with our affordability measures for the residents of Saskatchewan, which is more impactful. Our efforts to ensure Saskatchewan remains the most affordable place to live, work, start a business, and raise a family becomes even more important. The budget reduces income tax for every resident, family, and small business. Altogether, we are trying to increase and maintain affordability measures for the people in the province. The strength of our economy is the reason that we can provide these affordability measures while providing services to our Saskatchewan residents. As we review our U.S. procurements, rushing to cancel them without a strategy to replace them could result in loss or varying levels of disruptions in service, loss of specialized equipment and products, and/or loss of technical expertise required for the goods and services that Saskatchewan residents depend on and deserve. There could also be unintended consequences like job losses, increased costs, and reduced access to the high-quality goods and services that residents and businesses depend on. Our strong but measured response, coupled with our ongoing engagement with U.S. officials, has kept most of Saskatchewan exports free from U.S. tariffs. Mr. Speaker, our government is ensuring a strong, stable, and sustainable future for our province while making life more affordable, supporting businesses, and investing in services. We have a plan, and our plan is working.
The 65-minute period has expired. The 10-minute period of questions and answers will begin. I recognize the member from Regina University.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. Just a little faster on my feet, I guess. You know, Mr. Speaker, the member for Kenora Pelly talked a lot about highways in his address, and you know, I've spoken to a lot of chiefs and folks up north, and with my colleagues representing Cumberland and Athabasca, and as well as people in the mining industry, and you know, the state of Highway 123, or the state of the gravel road known as Highway 50, I think leave a lot to be desired. But one chief told me that when the previous Minister of Highways was to meet with her to talk about the state of the highways, he actually flew up. So I'm wondering if the member of Kenora Pelly could tell me if he thinks he can get an accurate read on the quality of a road by 20,000 feet.
I recognize the member from Kenora Pelly.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I thought the question had to do with Saskatchewan procurement, but what I will tell you is there is Saskatchewan contractors that have worked on 123, and as far as all of the contracts in Saskatchewan, over 95% of highway contracts have been awarded to Saskatchewan companies. There have been bids where there is not a Saskatchewan company that can bid it, but through the bidding process, we always try to watch for Saskatchewan companies. So, thank you.
Recognize the member from Weyburn-Bengal.
Speaker, every day in this House, Mr. Speaker, the members opposite make claims about the state of health care. Yet, they also seem to support cancelling a contract that provides services to thousands of people every day. To the member from Saskatoon-Stonebridge, do you support a disruption in lab services to the 3,000 people who use and rely on this service every day?
Good question.
I recognize the member from Saskatoon Stonebridge.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to the member for the question. I support finding out what's in this contract. We could have been working on these procurement deals, checking them out 3 months ago, finding more ways to cancel and finding more ways to encourage no disruption of service at all, and this government has been absent on this issue.
I recognize the member from Saskatoon Riversdale.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. How does the member from Carrot River Valley sleep at night knowing their government's actions cost 79 Surecom employees their job, and that's just the tip of the iceberg?
I recognize the member from Carrot River Valley.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to the member opposite for the question. We will always put Saskatchewan first. We will always, when companies, Saskatchewan has awarded nearly 90% of all procurements to Saskatchewan companies over the past 5 years. When Saskatchewan companies bid, that number jumped to 95%. And in that same period, the province has awarded more than 90%, 99% actually, almost 100%. Yeah, of procurements to Canadian companies, with less than only 1% awarded to U.S. companies. Thank you.
I recognize the member from Kindersley-Biggar.
Over, Mr. Speaker. Saskatchewan people are looking forward to getting outside and enjoying all that Saskatchewan has to offer. The issues of tariffs is on people's minds, and many Saskatchewan families will be making the decision to spend their vacation in some of Saskatchewan's beautiful parks. To the member from Saskatoon Stonebridge, why do you want to hurt Saskatchewan's tourism industry and disrupt the vacations of hard-working Saskatchewan families?
Hard to believe. Hard to believe.
I recognize the member from Saskatoon Stonebridge.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I appreciate the question from the member from Kindersley-Biggar. What I would like to see is that with all of these contracts that are being offered and renewed behind closed doors, that we could be a little bit more transparent and plan ahead to make sure that we employ Saskatchewan people and Saskatchewan companies. That's what I think.
I recognize the member from PA Carleton.
Mr. Speaker, this year our government is investing a record $8.1 billion in health care. $8.1 billion for better access to acute care programs and services to improve patient outcomes, including lab services. This government's priority is ensuring that residents have access to the services they need when they need them. To the member from Saskatchewan Riversdale, how does disrupting health care services that people rely on in Saskatchewan, I repeat, how does disrupting health services that people rely on help Saskatchewan people access the services they need?
I recognize the member from Saskatoon Riversdale.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's hard to answer any of these questions when this government refuses to provide us with the LifeLabs contract. One has to wonder, what are they hiding?
I recognize the member from Saskatoon Stonebridge.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To the member from Batoche, we're getting the runaround on the list of businesses that the government procures. You say that there's 90% Canadian, 90% Saskatchewan and 99% Canadian. There's no reason not to share that information with the people of Saskatchewan. Let's see it. Will the member from Batoche ask this caucus to publicly share a list of all companies employed through procurement so we can check their math on the 90 and 99%.
I recognize the member from Batoche.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to the member opposite for the question. Over the last 5 years, Saskatchewan has awarded 99% of all procurements to Canadian companies, with less than 1% going to U.S. firms. But our efforts don't stop there. Our Crown corporations are actively pursuing every opportunity to reduce U.S. procurement while still delivering best value for taxpayer dollars, and it's working. Show me any other province that is doing this.
I recognize the member from Dakota Arm River.
As mentioned in this chamber on many occasions, in some cases there's no local companies that do a specific type of work in procurement. To the member from Saskatoon-Riversdale, if no Canadian company offered a specific life-saving service that we needed, would the members opposite not want us to acquire services that people need because it is potentially American?
I recognize the member from Saskatoon-Riversdale.
The member opposite must be referring to Life Labs. Wow, if there wasn't a Canadian company, imagine that. What were we doing before Life Labs? Oh gosh, we did it ourselves.
I recognize the member from Regina University.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. A fairly simple question for the member from Kenora-Pelly. Does he agree that the taxpaying public should have access to the contracts that this government is signing? Yes or no? Thank you.
I recognize the member from Kenora-Pelly.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If the member opposite is referring to Life Labs, our government will not disrupt services to Saskatchewan people. This is the same decision that's been made in British Columbia. This government will continue to put Saskatchewan residents' access to health care first. Life Labs does provide community lab services in Regina and Saskatoon. The contract they have with SHCA was awarded through a competitive bid process. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I recognize the member from Moose Jaw-Waccamaw.
Past NDP governments have had no problem with out-of-country procurement, as well as out-of-country investments, including $40 million on an Australian-based communications company. In 2004, the NDP also partnered with Dynacare, which was acquired by LabCorp, an American medical testing company. What?
The 75-minute debate has expired.
Private members' motions, government priority item number 1. Item number 1, MLA Beaudry.
I recognize the member from Kelvington-Wadena.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have a few statements I'd like to make before I move my motion, so I'll save that for maybe lunchtime. I want to discuss a few topics today, Mr. Speaker. First, I'd like to share just a history and some statistics on organ donation. Then I'd like to share Logan Boulet's story. And finally, I'd like to share with you a few stories about some of the players from the 2017-18 Humboldt Broncos. Now, firstly, we're going to take a deep dive on organ donation in Canada and Saskatchewan. Canada's first successful kidney transplant, considered the first organ donation in Canada, took place on May 14, 1958, at the Royal Victoria Hospital in Montreal, involving identical twins, Moira and Nola Johnson, with Moira donating a kidney to Nola. The pioneers behind this were Dr. John Dossiter, a physician and bioethicist who spearheaded the procedure, Dr. Joe Luke, a vascular surgeon, Dr. Ken McKinnon, the chief of urology. As I said before, the recipients were 15-year-old twins, Moira Johnson and her sister Nola, both from Bay de Ouf, Quebec. Moira donated a kidney, to her sister Nola. The transplant between them, which, being that they were twins, significantly reduced the risk of rejection. The procedure was a major breakthrough, offering a chance of survival for individuals with end-stage kidney disease. Nola Johnson, the recipient, survived for over 35 years. Liver, heart, pancreas transplants were successfully performed by the late 1960s, while lung and intestinal organ transplant procedures were begun in the 80s. In 1981, the first successful heart and lung transplant was performed. In 1987, the first intestinal transplant was performed, and in 1988, the first split liver transplant was performed. Living donor transplants began in 1989, with the first living donor lung transplant happening in 1990. In 2001, for the first time, living donor donations surpassed organ donations from deceased individuals. Deceased organ donors can provide up to 8 organs for transplant, although the average number of organs used for transplantation in Canada is 3 to 4 organs per donor. Living donors provide a single organ, most commonly a kidney or part of a liver. There were 762 deceased organ donors in Canada in 2018. Now, I just want to reference the date again. In 2018, most of the stats that I'm currently reading are before April 6th, 2018. The decreased organ donor rate increased by 42% between 2009 and 2018. In 2018, there were 555 living donors. Although the rate of organ donation by living donors increased between 2003 and 2011, the rate decreased by 2% between 2009 and 2018. 5-year survival rates in Canada following organ transplantation are generally high and have improved modestly since 2009, mostly in terms of kidney and liver transplants. Survival rates following kidney transplants are higher for living donor kidneys than for kidneys from deceased donors. As of 2018, 88% of adult patients who received a living donor kidney were still alive 5 years after the transplant, while 81.3% of adult recipients of kidneys from deceased donors were still alive. 5-year survival rates among pediatric patients is higher, at 94% and 89% respectively. 5-year survival rates for lung transplants is the lowest, at 66.6%, while over 80% of heart, liver, and pancreas transplants recipients survive at least 5 years. In 2018, at the end of the year, 4,351 people were awaiting an organ transplant in Canada. In 2017, 4,333 people were awaiting transplants at the end of the year. Now, some Saskatchewan stats. Some early beginnings. The first kidney transplant in Saskatchewan took place December 10th, 1963. The Kidney Research Foundation of Saskatchewan was established in 1967 with the help of Saskatoon lawyers who played a crucial role in kidney research, in patient assistance, and in educating the public about kidney disease and organ donation. This foundation was instrumental in getting organ donation added to the provincial driver's license, later the health services card. In September 2020, Saskatchewan launched its organ and tissue donor registry, with almost 30,000 eligible residents registered to donate their organs and/or tissues. Now, Saskatchewan has seen growth in organ and tissue donation rates, with a record-breaking year for deceased organ donations in 2022, 2023, and the highest number of deceased donors in 23-24. In 2017, there were 17 multi-organ donors and 39 cornea donors in our province. 33 people received a kidney transplant, and 43 cornea transplants were performed. Saskatchewan's rate of organ donation from deceased donors was 14.6 donors per million population in 2017. This rate has improved from 12.2 deceased donors per million population in 2016, so only an increase of 2.4. Canada's organ donation rate was 20.9 deceased donors per million in 2016. The first transplant in Saskatchewan, like I said, took place 50 years ago on December 10th, and over 800 kidney transplants have been performed in our province since. Saskatchewan has the largest surgical bone donation program in Canada. Most donated bone comes from hip replacement surgery and is used in many surgical procedures that require bone grafts. Age does not matter either, Mr. Speaker. Canada's oldest organ donor was over 90 years old. Donation will be considered only after every effort has been made to save a person's life. Even if you have an orange donor sticker on your health card, the most important thing you can do is talk to your family and let them know your wishes. Organ and tissue donation is only possible with the consent of your kin. Now, Mr. Speaker, I'm going to share Logan's story, and then I'd like to revisit some of the statistics that we have seen in organ donation. As I stated the other day in my member statement, that on April 7th, 2018, Humboldt Broncos defenseman Logan Boulay succumbed to his injuries. His parents, Bernie and Toby, offered to donate his organs so that 6 could live on. They did so because Logan told his parents he was registering as an organ donor and that he was inspired by his coach and mentor, Rick Sugat. Rick passed away on June 27th, 2017, and was also an organ donor and saved 6 lives. Logan's story inspired many others. In fact, it is estimated that nearly 150,000 people registered to become organ donors in the days and weeks that followed Logan's donation. This represents the largest number of Canadians registering to become organ donors in Canadian history due to one event and one person, a phenomenon that became known as the Logan Boulay effect. Logan Boulay's decision to become an organ donor was a catalyst for a nationwide movement. His altruism inspired thousands of Canadians to register as organ donors, significantly increasing awareness about the critical issue. Today, we see the ripple effects of Logan's decision in the lives saved and improved through organ donation. If you're interested in learning more about Logan's story or for more information on organ donation, please go to greenshirtday.ca or the Saskatchewan Organ and Tissue Donor Registry. Now, Mr. Speaker, I want to share a quick story about Logan. At the start of the 2017 season, just to explain a bit about the kind of athlete he was, we brought in a chiropractor from Saskatoon from Summit Sports and Health to work with our team to do some functional movement. Things that may seem very, very simple. Go on all fours, raise an arm, raise a leg, and just to measure how our athletes could move. These seem like quite simple things, but some of our most high-end athletes were failing these simple movements early on. Through every single test we did, Logan was in the top 3. Every day, the rest of the season, every day, Logan was in the top 3. Now, it may seem something trivial to be able to move like that, but it decreases for athletes the ability to get injured. It increases your performance, enhances recovery. So Logan truly was an amazing athlete. Now, Mr. Speaker, like I said before, the stats I spoke on before were before the Logan Boulay effect. Now, I'd like to share a little bit of the statistics that have come after. A total of 3,428 organ transplants were performed in Canada in 2023. 83% of transplants used deceased donor organs, and 17 used living donor organs. Of the organs from living donors, 54% were from related donors, 46 from unrelated. Of the total transplants, 59% were kidney, 19 liver, 13 lung, 5 heart, 2 pancreas, and 2 a combination of transplants. Of the 952 deceased donors in 2023, 67% donated following neurological determination of death. As of December 31st, 2023, a total of 3,427 Canadians were on wait lists to receive a transplant. 60% are on active wait lists, and 40% are on hold for a short period of time. Now, according to a recent report from the Canadian Institute for Health Information, Saskatchewan has achieved the highest rate of deceased organ donors in the entire country, with 28.9 donors per population of 1 million. Mr. Speaker, that's almost double the rate that we had back in 2014. The Government of Saskatchewan has committed increased funding to enhance kidney health across the province. The 2025-2026 budget has allocated an additional $319,000 to the Saskatchewan Health Authority Organ and Tissue Donation Transplant Program, in ongoing support for staff who are essential to the program's continued success. This budget also includes a significant investment of nearly $4.3 million to strengthen kidney health programs, with a focus on expanding and stabilizing dialysis services across the province. This funding will support the addition of nearly 30 full-time staff in Regina, Saskatoon, and 5 rural locations. The allocation of these positions will help expand services at the Meadow Lake, North Battleford, and Fort Capel dialysis units, while also elevating existing operations in Saskatoon, Tisdale, Moose Jaw, and Regina. These enhancements help to ensure kidney patients receive timely, high-quality care, improving access to essential services throughout the province. Now, Saskatchewan now has the highest rate, as I said, of deceased organ donors in Canada. The Saskatchewan Health Authority's organ donation program saw a 75% increase in deceased organ donors in 2023 compared to other years. Saskatchewan's record high was in April 1st of 2022 to March 31st, 2023. We had a record high of 30 deceased donors. I think those are some amazing statistics to see where we started and where we've gone, Mr. Speaker. And I think in this amazing province that we're only going to continue that. Now, that's it for statistics time. I'd like to just share a few stories of some of the players on where they are today. And the first person I want to talk about is Grayson Cameron. And I'm quite inspired by Grayson. He has a dedication to healing, Mr. Speaker. He's been all over the world working with many different therapists and has been accessing many different modalities of healing. He faces the pain in his life head on. He doesn't hide from it. He takes responsibility for the things that have happened in his life, and he faces them. When he's been told, you've tried everything, Grayson continues to search. He looks. There's no stopping for him. Through his journey, he's had multiple different jobs. Doing all of these, well, he continues to do this important self-work on himself. Grayson has farmed. He's worked in the oil field. He's been in construction. Grayson has coached high-level hockey. He studied trust law and contract law. What a remarkable journey. All doing this while continuing to work on himself. And currently, Grayson has found a passion to help others heal mentally, physically, and spiritually. The next person I'd like to talk about, Mr. Speaker, is about Bryce Fisk. I could talk about Bryce for hours, but I'll keep it short. Bryce was one of my favorite players. We traded for him in November of 2017 from L'Orange. Now, for those of you who follow senior hockey, I know one member who does, Bryce is a top D-man in the province. And some may get this reference and some may not, but Bryce commands a lot of sticks and gas. He and the Kinistino Tigers won the Wheatland Hockey League Championship this year. And I was lucky enough during the election to take a Saturday off of campaigning to attend Bryce's wedding. Now, Bryce and I have always had a fun and jovial relationship, and he asked me not to share this story, so I'm going to. Bryce was always the most enthusiastic player to attend my team yoga sessions. His ability to move maybe would be, we'll call 50% less that of Logan's. His functional mobility is something that I think Bryce is going to continue to work on for the rest of his life. And I imagine that I'll see him back in a Chris Beaudry yoga class soon. Right, Bryce? Now, Caleb Dahlgren is best known for his memoir, Crossroads. in which he shares his personal journey of recovery and resilience. His book provides a heartfelt and candid look into his experiences, offering readers a message of hope and perseverance. Currently, Caleb is pursuing his academic ambitions, focusing on becoming a chiropractor. When Caleb was in Humboldt, he came forward to the team and asked if we would help him with a program that he called Dahlgren's Diabetes. It is a mentorship program designed to give back to children with type 1 diabetes. Now, when Caleb presented this to us, we said, this is a great idea, but you know the state of junior hockey in Saskatchewan, Caleb. It's not full of finances. So if you'd like for this to continue, if you can fundraise for it, we'll make it happen. And then I offered my help to Caleb. I said, I'll go with you on some cold calls around town, and we'll see how things work out. Now, it was amazing to see a young man go on his first cold calls presenting his proposal. I remember the very first place we went to was the doctor's office in Humboldt. And we didn't have to be out, we weren't out long that day, Mr. Speaker, and he had Dahlgren's Diabetes fully funded before lunch. Now, Smitty, Tyler Smith, the winner of the Amazing Race Canada Season 9. He's the founder of Not Alone Co., a mental health awareness clothing line dedicated to facilitating conversations around trauma, PTSD, and mental health. Tyler co-hosts the podcast Speak Your Mind with NHL veteran Riley Sheehan, normalizing discussions about mental health with guests from sports, entertainment, and beyond. Through public speaking and advocacy, Tyler inspires individuals and communities to embrace vulnerability, build connections, and create safe spaces for healing and hope. Now, before Tyler was doing this, I reminded of one practice I believe it was just before playoffs started. We were running through drills at both ends of the ice, and Tyler had came to us the week before and said, I can be a penalty killer. I can do this for you guys. Put faith in me. We said, okay. We started practicing the penalty kill, and not 30 seconds into the penalty kill, Tyler ate a slap shot to the face. He lost teeth. His face was opened up. He needed multiple stitches. Now, this may be an injury that would set people back. You may not see them for weeks, months. Tyler went to the equipment room, got stitched up, went to the dentist, went back to the equipment room, put a full face shield on his helmet, and was ready to go next week, killing penalties for the Broncos. Now, Ryan Strasnitzky, another remarkable individual who embodies the spirit of resilience and determination. Ryan's foundation has a mission to empower individuals with disabilities. Ryan's journey laid the foundation, but the focus is now shifted to the incredible people they help, sharing their stories, providing tools for independence and success. For those interested more information for Ryan's amazing foundation, you can find it at strasstrongfoundation.com. Ryan also has his sights set on competing in the Paralympics. He's aspiring to be in wheelchair basketball or wheelchair racing. His pursuits of excellence serve as an inspiration to all, demonstrating that life's challenges can be met with unwavering resolve and tenacity. Now, both Ryan and Tyler are amazing public speakers. And it's been said before, Mr. Speaker, that sharing your story creates a circle of healing that cannot be stopped. When an individual shares their story, it releases them from some of the pain and trauma that's living inside of their bodies. When someone shares their narrative, it allows for another person to relate to their story. In relating to that story, you at times then can release some of your own pain. Listening to these stories, sharing these stories, this empowers us to share our own narrative then, thus continuing the circle. That's the power of sharing. That's what Ryan and Tyler do. If you ever get the opportunity, I highly suggest to listen to one of these young men and then to share your own story as well. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would now like to read the motion. I move that this Assembly supports the efforts of the Logan Boulay family to raise awareness of the importance of organ donation and that the Logan Boulet effect had a significant impact on the rate of organ and tissue donation across the nation of Canada, I so move.
It's been moved by the member for Kelvington-Wadena that this Assembly supports the efforts of the family of Logan Boulet to raise awareness of the importance of organ donation and that the Logan Boulet effect had a significant impact on the rate of organ and tissue donation across the nation of Canada. Is the Assembly ready for the question? I recognize the member from Saskatoon-Riversdale.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On behalf of the official opposition, I would like to put some words on the record in favor of this important motion. This motion has a personal tie to me and my family. I get emotional about this too, sorry. So July 26 will mark 3 years since I donated my kidney to my aunt. And it's just been such a wonderful gift to see somebody go from being so sick. Renal failure, for anybody who's seen it, it does a whole number on all parts of your system. You know, even today, she still has to wear shoes inside because of how it affected her feet. And going to dialysis 3 times a week, she couldn't travel anywhere, couldn't see family. It's just so hard to see somebody in that state. And my uncle had actually donated a kidney to her about almost 20 years before. And as we know, kidneys, they don't last forever. A kidney from a living donor will last a lot longer, so that's really great. But that kidney had run its course, and so she was quite sick again. And I had the fortune of being able to donate, and the impact you see, somebody goes from having no life to really living life, keeping up with her grandkids, traveling, and all that joy that comes from that gift. It's really an honor to be able to provide that to somebody. And so it's really important that we move this motion and recognize that the hard work that the Boulet family is doing to raise awareness about organ donation and the gift that it is to people in need. And just some other statistics we wanted to share is that we still have 250 Canadians annually dying while waiting for organ transplants. And so we need to continue to support people to get registered. There's a big disconnect between people who support organ donation and who are registered. So that's part of the important work that we see from the Boulet family working on that, and encouraging everybody to tell their friends and family to register online. And we'd like to ask the Minister of Health to continue to invest into research into organ and tissue donation and making sure every donor can be matched with a possible recipient. And I know the paired program that, at least I know the kidney transplant program has, is a really great way to do that. And I'd also like to recognize the great work at St. Paul's Hospital, their organ transplant facility. It's not just the great medical work that they do there, but the level of empathy and kindness and caring that you see out of all the staff, from the nurse coordinators to the doctors to the surgeons, was outstanding. So thank you to the member opposite for bringing this motion forward.
Well, the question before the Assembly is the motion by the member from Kelvington-Wadena, and spoken to very nicely by the member from Saskatoon-Riversdale as well. Is the that the Assembly supports the efforts of the family of Logan Boulay to raise awareness of the importance of organ donation, and that the Logan Boulay effect had a significant impact on the rate of organ and tissue donations across the nation of Canada. Is the Assembly ready for the question? All of those in favour, please say aye. Aye. I declare the motion passed. Thank you. I recognize the Government House Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that this House do now adjourn.
It has been moved that this Assembly do now be adjourned. Is it the pleasure of the Assembly to adopt the motion? This Assembly stands adjourned until Monday at 1:30. Thank you so much.